In this tutorial, we'll go over the best practices and tips for using DEFlicker in Final Cut Pro 10 to get the best results. This complements our other tutorials about specific features of the product that work the same in all applications. I'll offer you a few tips and mention a few gotchas to keep you on track along the way. Let's get started. Let's start with the tips. Tip number 1. Most of our plugins do not run in real time, so having Final Cut Pro's background render preference turned on can really slow interactivity and usability. We suggest you turn off the background rendering by using Final Cut Pro's menu, Final Cut Pro, Preferences, select the Playback tab, and make sure background render is not checked. When you're ready to render, select the desired sequence in the timeline and then select the menu, Modify, Render Selection, or Render All as desired. Tip number 2. When you're using our products that access frames at a particular other point in time, like frame 100 when you're at frame 200, the results of the clip can change when performing any kind of edit, trim, dissolve, or transition. We have a workaround so results remain predictable. Simply add the desired plugin to the original clip with no trimming applied, and then after applying the plugin, select the clip that has the effect applied and make it a compound clip. Option G, or the menu item, File, New Compound Clip. Then trim or transition to the compound clip instead of the original clip. Tip number 3. If you need to apply an effect that takes a long time to calculate, for example, some of the DEFlicker plugins, you might consider applying the plugin, rendering the clip out using a good intermediate format at least, and then re-adding it back in. This will make for a less painful editing experience as you add more clips to the timeline, add and delete tracks above the clip with the plugin, etc. Tip number 4. If you need to apply 2 effects that use more than one frame as input for each output frame, most of our products by the way, you should consider applying one effect, rendering it out. In this case, I select range in order to export just this section of the edit. Then I import the rendered clip back in and replace the one that I applied the first effect to, and now I can add the next effect. This can reduce total rendering time drastically. Note that this is a problem because Final Cut Pro often recalculates frames it's already calculated instead of caching them internally. Now for the gotchas. Gotcha number 1. If you use one of our plugins that adds keyframes for you, currently DEFlicker Timelapse, you might notice that if you're at time 50 when you click to add a keyframe, for instance, the UI may not display that a keyframe was set, and the value may look very incorrect for the setting it's being automatically keyframed for you. This is because Final Cut Pro uses a timeline that has fractional time values, so you might really be at time 49.6 as far as Final Cut Pro is concerned, but displays that it's at time 50. As such, our plugin might set a keyframe at time 50, but because Final Cut Pro is at 49.6, the parameter may not look keyframed. You may need to hit the Go to Next Frame key or Go to Previous Frame in the UI in order to actually snap to an integer frame time. Gotcha number 2. In some of our plugins, we have groups of parameters that will show up as a line of text in the parameter settings. However, if you hover over that line of text with the cursor, you'll see that Final Cut Pro 10 then displays a Show Interactive Text element that's clickable, and a group of new parameters will be revealed and you can edit them. So hopefully these tips and gotchas will assist you with your experience when working with DEFlicker and Final Cut Pro 10.